Welcome to Contemporary Black Voices, where we take on the most pressing issues affecting Black America. I am your host, Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell. My co-hosts today are best-selling author and foreign affairs expert Caleb Alexander and business owner and community activist Chris Dawkins. Well, Project 25 and Christian nationalism are rapidly in full effect, and a combination of suggesting God's will about Trump's being and actions in social media. Hence, there is a national acceptance among Christian nationalists to include those who are Black of what we have witnessed these past 5 days. Now, as a reminder, an executive order is one way the President of the United States can change the nation's policies, but there are limits as to how far such orders can go. They can also be deemed unlawful by federal courts. The president may not, without congressional authorization, use these powers to change domestic law and create or alter existing legal obligations. Now, while there are now lawsuits against Trump's actions via executive orders and blatant violations of breaking constitutional law, there are many questions that are so apparent among this panel and many in the Black community. So here are some questions that we thought about. 1, is there a move to tear down a modern age Black Wall Street via civil rights rollbacks? 2, are these anti-DEI or anti-Black actions a signal to an increase in the lack of transparency in hiring practices? And 3, how does the suspension of the World Health Organization's communications and the National Institute of Health abilities to conduct cancer research, now how does that affect us? So collectively, these actions this week signal an attack on human dignity. So our overall question is, what is the threat of executive orders to the Black community? So before we get started, we have a lot to talk about today, but please tap on the subscribe button to be able to get notices of upcoming shows. In addition, please hit that like button as well as share this and other shows with family and friends. So you guys ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's talk about the DEI piece. You want
me to go?
Yeah.
I'll go. So, no, I mean, it's an assault. To them, they equate DEI with Blacks getting positions they don't deserve. That's what they equate that with. And so you have people who are on the chopping block. Again, we'll talk a little bit about off camera. The Secretary of Defense. I'm sorry. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, a Black man who spent over 30 years in the military, who earned that position.
Right.
You have women who've earned their place in combat, who've earned their place.
He already let go of one.
Yeah, and he's got to let go a lot more. But this idea, this rollback of, EEOC, you know what I mean? And so what is that about? I mean, long-standing principles that have been in place since the 60s about equal opportunity employment, rolling that back. The freeze on hiring.
The Civil Rights Division.
The firing, everyone working on DEI, and then telling the coworkers, if we missed anything, you need to report anybody who is secretly engaged in DEI hiring activities.
And the other thing is that the Civil Rights Division for right now, and that may be for 4 years, cannot
open a new case, right?
Open or even release cases for investigation. So this DEI piece is something to where we talked about it in past shows. A lot of people did not believe that Project 25 was real. In fact, they were saying it was fear-mongering. But now we're seeing what it does. So I did ask Chris a question offline when I was driving around early this morning. Do you think as Blacks we have depended on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies and affirmative action to where, yes, we deserve it, but did we over depend on it to where now we're going to be forced, in my opinion, to where we rely on one another? Because I think it was Willie D in Houston. He was saying that the Asians aren't talking about DEI.
Mm-hmm.
The Hispanics are not talking about DEI. And the reason why they're not talking about it is because they've got infrastructures in their communities to support one another. Where are our infrastructures?
Well, with respect to the great Willie D of the Ghetto Boy, the reason that the Latinos aren't talking about it is because they benefited off of the DEI and the Black civil rights movement and sacrifice. They didn't have to talk about it because we talk about it.
That's what
we fought for that, so they didn't have to fight for it. As far as the Asian goes, the same thing.
Same thing.
But the Asians still ran crying to the courts about Harvard. So they do talk about DEI. You know what I mean? They talk about it in reverse fashion.
But interesting about the Harvard case is that the enrollment of Black students in Harvard was the same.
It was the same.
But their enrollment, the Asian student enrollment dropped.
Right. They didn't get the seats that they ran crying about. You know what I mean? But no, they again, this idea that we need to rely less on it. People, I think there's a misconception about DEI. DEI is not about handouts. It's not about going and grabbing people off the street saying, "Hey, come here." You know what I mean? Even though you're unqualified, you know, come and work this job or come get into this institution. That's not what DEI is. DEI is saying, you know what? Let's go and reach out to Howard University and let the kids at Howard University know that there is a position in the State Department, and the kids who have majored in international relations and global affairs and who have straight A's in those subjects who are shining, let's let them know so that they can apply as well, so that we can diversify our applicant pool, not necessarily diversify or not necessarily change our hiring practice or lower our standards, but let's diversify our applicants, which in turn may diversify our pool of workers.
Let me say something real quick. First of all, I agree with, and I think I told Sharon this morning, the same things pretty much that you said. But the one thing I want to make sure that people understand is that DEI is a new word that came in 2024. That's number one. It was always diversity. And diversity was something that benefited major corporations as well and universities as well as anybody else. And I'll stick a pin in it right there. I know we're running out of time, and we can pick it up on the next go round.
Okay, with that being said, we're going to take a break and come back and listen to this conversation.